Okay, so we should be live. And so today here, what we're going to see is we're going to continue the live coding. So this is part of a series of live coding I'm doing right now on YouTube. And I am going to continue to talk about we're going to continue to implement the streamable transport of our MCP client crate, the Agentic Crate that I have. So this is what I'm going to add right now. I'm going to add that to my Twitter in case people want to join. MCP streamable transport. So right now I'm putting that on my Twitter. Okay, hey Renzo, hey Oxy. Oh my God, Oxyvoid, you're always there. You are going to end up by talking French soon. So this one is going to annoy me for a little while, but so I'm going to update that. Every time there's a flag like that, I have to update it. But anyway, today we're going to continue to add the streamable transport to continue the development of the streamable transport on our Rust crate. And we made some great progress yesterday, and we still have stuff to do. So let's do that. And I'm going to put that there. I'm going to click on that. I'm sorry, because otherwise I shouldn't do that, but I'm going to do that anyway. I don't like to have. Okay, did it restart or not? Okay, good. Okay, well, it's not too bad. So, going to update Rust Analyzer, and then we're all good to go. So, what we did yesterday is the following. So, just in short here again, I'm going to explain the thing, and we're going to go right to the coding here, the Rust code. So, it's going to be very deep, because what we're going to do for the one that just jump in is we're going to continue our streamable transport. Yeah, so that is what we're going to do there. And it's going to be pretty cool because yesterday we made some good progress and we don't have the session yet. So we're going to keep the MCP session today. So that is going to be the goal. So go there, Command K. I have different terminals here to run my different things. And so basically the way it is done is this is my crate, which is Agentic Crate. So it's the one that we have over there. So if I go to crates.io, Agentic, and then it's this one. So this one is the goal of this crate that I'm creating right now, and it's just the beginning. So in fact, you are the beginning of a crate. And the goal is to have the support. It's a support library to implement your MCP server, your MCP client, or your A2A libraries or application using Rust. Yeah, so that is going to be the goal of the Agentic Crate. Right now, we're going to focus, and probably for the next 2-3 months, is going to be really on the MCP. And then eventually, we're going to add the A2A. So what is MCP at the high level? It's a protocol, in a way. So it's Model Context Protocol. The name is what it is. And the point here is a protocol that allows AI or anything to discover the tools and to be able to call the tools. And then also you can ask to generate some prompts and say, give me a prompt for this kind of problems and all this kind of things. So there's a whole set of interfaces that MCP has, such as you can embed it for the third type of user. So the way to look at it now is for the last 4 decades, we had 2 users for our app, server services. We had end user, us, human, clicking, discovering on the UI or whatever, and then the API. So when you create an application, we have the API. We, developers, go and look at the thing, at the API, the doc, and then we put it in an application, whatever application it is. Now, since we have AIs that can think a little bit like us, we can either give them screenshot of a browser, and then the guy clicks on X, Y, and all this crazy stuff, this is a hack, doesn't scale. Or there's an MCP protocol to say, hey, AI, since you understand pretty well JSON, you can query those MCPs, and they will tell you what tools they have, what capabilities they have. And then you can call it on behalf or not. Actually, that's the scary part, but by yourself in a way. So that is, in a way, the HTML for agents. Yeah, because HTML is kind of a waste for the thing. So now MCP has two things. It's based on JSONRPC, so JSONRPC out, JSONRPC in and out. And JSONRPC, I have a good slide here. Give me a second. Is that guy. Okay, that guy over there. And this is basically, it doesn't have to be post, it's protocol agnostic, which is also the point. This is another slide that I had to explain CRUD. But this is a JSONRPC, and you always have this as a request, where you send a request, JSONRPC, the ID of the request, the methods, and the params. Could be an array or name value or dictionary. I prefer the dictionary, and actually MCP use the dictionary, so everybody is happy. If you don't hear me well or whatever online, let me know. And then when it replies, it will reply like that with a JSONRPC again, the ID. The only thing here is that it guarantees that the reply of this request will match this ID. So it has nothing to do with the ID of the item or whatever. Is the ID of the RPC request, which is echo back on the RPC response. If it's a notification, you don't have ID. And then you have the result. And then in result, we can have error and everything. So that is a JSONRPC, and that is the way MCP goes. So everything goes through JSONRPC. So that is the way it does. So, and that is awesome because now, because everything goes through JSONRPC, you can go over STD in, SDIO, in and out. And this is what we have implemented. Or we can go over server, an HTTP server, with some protocol, and that is what we started to implement. So that is the thing here. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to go back to our code over there. So this is a crate, we have this, and what we have done, so this crate is about now, if I do a Toki, 4,000 lines of code. Not too big, not too small. And it has most, if it's not all, the types of MCP. And I took the spec over there and I created them, and then I asked AI to create the others following my pattern and everything. So it has a very ergonomic API. And if you go to examples, you can see that the way we do is you create a new client, MCP. And so right now it has the MCP side, and then we're going to add the server side. So right now it's a client, and then we'll add the server in other videos, or I might do it offline, I don't know. And so MCP here is protocol, is transport independent. So in this case, simple case, we have SDIO. This is NPM node, and so many of the specs is done in Node.js. So we run, and we do -y, and then we have this thing. So that will call the MCP server. We will instantiate the MCP server via SDIO, which is basically a command line. And then the way it communicates back and forth is with STD in, STD out. So everything is a new line. And then the server will understand every new line as a JSONRPC command, and then it can send new lines for the response or the notification. So that is the way it works. So now the cool things about that is this server, it's what is given to us by the these guys here. So we have the server here, and this is the server. So if you go there, and this is the everything server. So when you do an MCP client, it's always good to play with that because we can learn from it and everything. So we see that we have the tools here, tool and add, which is what we have over there. And then we have long-running sample LLM, all these guys. And then we have the resources. So resources is you ask a resource, kind of a data kind of things, and it will return it. And then we have the prompt. So you can ask to generate prompt, such as it will generate a prompt that then you run as part of your application. And then this login, and then they don't support in this one sampling. Sampling is the other one around is your MCP server need to talk to AI out of his workflow, and he send a sampling, and then the client is supposed to take the sampling, call AI, and then return back the response to stuff. So it's pretty cool. But not many people implement that, but we are going to implement that eventually. So that is the way that this stuff works. So now, what we're going to do is, and we're going to implement that. So if I do a cargo run example, okay, and in fact, I have a shell alias, which is CWE, which is cargo watch example, and we're going to do a client C01 simple. And so that will run that guy, will compile and will run that guy. And in fact, here what we have is this one is normal. This message is okay. It's a debug message that I should remove. I think, should I remove from the stuff? If I do a search like that. No, it's not me. So it's the server. I'm going to explain why it's there. It's basically because the channel only use std in as RPC and std out as RPC response or notification. There's no way to send debug or tracing and everything to a server. So often what command line server does is they use the SDR to like do these kind of things. Yeah. So that is the way it works. And I'm printing the SDR into the thing as one. Yeah. So in this case, nothing is wrong, just saying that the server is saying I'm starting and everything. But that was not an MCP message. And we create the client transport, and then the cool thing, we connect the transport, which initialize the things. We're in the command line business, and then we send a request. Now, the API that I've done is, I'm obviously biased with it, but I'm happy with the ergonomic of it, which is you create your params, which is your JSONRPC params, which is fully typed. So you have list tools and many we're going to see. And then you send it as a request. And inside the send request, I have this, which is a generic. And then this is a trick here, which is very cool because then as a result, I do something like that. And that will allow me that every time I do a request like that, I have the corresponding type here. So there's a whole little dance here that I'm doing with type, and making sure that everything is linked with the trait and everything. And that allows us to have this very cool workflow here. So like this, I send the API is very ergonomic. The counterpoint of that, some people will say, hey, but this is bad because every time you pass a new type on this guy, and rec will be a one-to-one mapping with that. So that won't multiply. But every time you pass a new type, it will the binary will have another function of that, which is true. But then this function is relatively small and the value is very high. And if I wanted, I could put that in another function with the into, such as it doesn't get duplicated. So there's always this way. But for me, the API clarity ergonomic is very important because then it's code clarity. And for me, code clarity is one of the factors of code quality. Yeah. So I want to make sure that people use the crate, they have code quality on their side. So we do the client, that will do the thing. And then because it returns a list tools result, we get the result over there, which is a list tools result. And then we can iterate the name. This is what we have there. Now, what we have as well, this one, so I like to have the examples like that. They are prefixed with client because I'm going to have another one later with server dash. Okay, so this is why. Now we're going to run this one. We're going to see what it is. Cargo. Okay, so it's cargo run. I mean, for me, it's cargo watch and examples and so on. So I do cargo watch example. I have a little alias on that. If you want to see the full command, let me know in the comments. I can add it. And then I'm going to do C02 call tool. And that, it will call this one, and then this one is very cool. Do the client, always SDIO Transport for now. And same server. Now we know that there's tools, so we did a list tools, and we know the tools, so we can look at the doc as well. And then we're going to do a call tool params. We do a new, and then we append the argument. So again, the API is very ergonomic. And if you do go to append, I have this into string over there, and then into value. That allows me to take any value. If I were going to take serialize over there, yes, we could say, and I almost did, say, hey, into value is weird. Why you don't take serialize? Well, the problem of serialize, if someone give me a value, then the serialize will actually clone it into another value. That's my understanding when I went to that rabbit hole. So when you do an into value, it kind of works the same, kind of, and not really because it actually it cannot fail. So if you have a type that won't fail and that would go into value, then it will work. So that is the way it works. So it's not a try into, is a into in this case. But these guys, they have the right into. So that is pretty cool. So we added that, and then we do the send request. We get the cool tool result, and then we print it. So when we run it, this is why we get the tool call result. Now, what is going to happen is when you use that with an AI agent or whatever, you integrate it, it will get this, and then the agent will understand the response and then do whatever he wanted to do at the beginning. Yeah. So that is the goal of the thing. Now, what we've done yesterday is we started to add the client tools, client 3, HTTP. And that is not working right now because there is no MCP server. So when you go to the MCP, so that is the everything, which is always very cool to use because it allows you to do the development. So when you go there, you are going to see that there's a couple of ways to run it. There's this one, the default one, which is the SDIO. Okay, you can make it explicit if you want. The SSE, which is server send event, but that is deprecated now. And then there's this one, which is the new updated spec, which is a little bit similar, and we'll see that, to SSE anyway, but it allows post. So what they added, the difference between SSE and this one, is that the SSE only work with SSE, I think. So you had to post, you had to get or post and then send the request over the SSE, which can be a little bit tricky for clients. And then this one, they allow you to do the post. Yeah, so you just post your JSONRPC, and then you get the response of this guy within your response. So they are like trying to find a way of not making it too foreign, but at the same time having this bidirectional communication. So it's the thing that they are doing. Okay, if you have any question, feel free to ask. So why it doesn't work? Well, it's because we didn't start the server. So what we're going to go is we're going to go there, and we're going to take that guy. And by the way, I put it there as well. And if you go to the Agentic Crate, you will find that. So yes, you have to install Node.js because many, and it's pretty cool, many of the example. This one is on Node.js, so just install it. Don't try to go with Burn. I mean, I like Burn.js. But the way it handled the STD IO is different. And so you have these things where it's not really, I wasted almost a day thinking that it was my code, but it was a way that they were handling the SDIO. So now start the server over there. I'm going to go back there. I'm going to press save. And boom, this is what we did yesterday, which is great. So we go to the server. They have a session initialized, which is good. They do a UUID. If we know if we're good in UUID, we see that it's a UUID v4. So it's not the v7 where you have the time component in it. It's the v4, which is the highest entropy. I think they could have gone both ways. It's fine. And that is a session ID, which means that they're going to keep that. And the only thing that we did, and that is what we implemented yesterday, was we have the new client. We create the transport now, which is the HTTP transport, which is a new thing. And then we're giving that guy, which is a web server. So that is the thing here in the doc. It wasn't really clear, but the endpoint is MCP. Maybe part of the spec, I don't know, but probably not. But anyway, make sure to add MCP. That is your web server. And then we connect to transport. What's happening is when you connect to an MCP, you send a first event. So in the implementation of the crate, I start the transport, which is not something that the user of the crate is in the business of. The user of the crate just know the config of the transport. Okay, and then behind the scene, we create the transport. We'll look at it because we are going to implement the transport. And then we do a first event, which is initialized. Okay? So that is this initialized that the server is going to get, and his role is to give back probably a session ID. And the reason is they need to have a session ID because the whole MCP protocol, while the payload is stateless in many ways. So in the payload, there's no state. Okay? You send, there's no state. State is relative, yeah. But you send a payload, you have a request ID, you know that you are going to get a response with that request ID, but there is no state within the payload. However, when you are on a server, as an MCP server, HTTP server, or MQTT server, or whatever, it's probably designed to support multiple clients, and therefore it has to support session to know the notification where to send it back. Because the whole point of MCP is that the server can send notification back to the client. But if we don't have session IDs, where do you send the thing back? So that will be the subject of another set of lives. So if people love these lives, I will do many more. But when you implement an MCP server, there's considerations that we didn't have to have when we were implementing a JSONRPC server. So in my video here in the Rust NX production web app and everything that I did a couple of years ago, and that is our blueprint to do production web application, I use a JSONRPC. Because again, JSONRPC, like what I was saying, is protocol agnostic, and you do not have to do this crazy, let me see here, I probably have it somewhere. This crazy kind of, gymnastic. And then you go to a meeting, with managers and staff and say, hey, okay, request is the thing to get the data. Oh yeah, but we have a filter, but then the filter is very complex. Oh, should we do it serialized JSON and everything? And it gets very tricky. And then the update, you say, is it put, is it patch, the post and everything. And so you have all of these gymnastics of trying to map a resource-based protocol into a CRUD. And your application will always start with CRUD, but it always continue longer. So this is where it kind of get a little bit crazy. So we are a big fan of using JSONRPC in these cases, because the JSONRPC, oh, by the way, I mean with, I don't know if you can join the MS team if you want over there. If you want to have questions here, you can join it there as well, and then it's live. But the point is, even when we are doing a Rust web app, we are using our JSONRPC. Yeah, so that is what we are using. Now, when we are doing an MCP server, and I don't want to go too deep into the MCP server stuff, you are going to have to maintain this session business because you are going to have to send back events. So that had a whole dimension to it. Now, in this example, this Agentic Crate that I'm doing, I'm going to do it in a way that it can do both. The client, it's the utilities, it's not but it can be used to create your own client, whatever application you have, or your own server as well. We will add it later. The cool news is it's the same types, obviously. So once you have done client here, we'll have another submodule, which is, say, server. So far, so good. Might be behind a feature flag, I don't know yet, but that will be the goal. Now, we're not worried too much about the server. The server here, which is done in Node.js, the example server, creating this session ID. Now, the trick is we do not store the session ID. So now I'm going to go back to the code there. So it's going to go very, very quick here. And so if we go to where the client is implemented, we have the client implementation. This is what the user is using, except the config. But after you use only the client. And then within that, there is this internal implementation. Okay, we have the SDIO, and then we have the HTTP. Now, if we go, and they both follow the same kind of rules here. If we go to our HTTP transport, the way it works is you have the config, you put it in an arc because it's immutable, and then we have the state or the data of the transport. So that is the way it works. The way I design it, I can change it, no emotion again. Now, the thing here, move to the right, code is not in this green area. Okay. No, I think everything should be fine, no? Am I missing something? No, I think, so sometimes it's hidden with the chat over there, but otherwise it should be okay, I think. Oh, move to the right, move to the right. I hope I can, because sometimes there's a weird thing, a weird bug. Oh, look at that, I can move. Hey, from Paris. Love Paris. Okay, here, like that. Okay, so I think this is a little bit better here, in case you have the command line. So the point here is that now we have these things, which is client transport, the config, and then the inner. So that is a way that I'm organizing the stuff. And then we have the SDIO. When we call an MCP server over SDIO, obviously, the command line of an MCP server, when it goes through the transport command line, SDIO, it's a single client business. Yeah, it could work, but it will be a weird use case to have the same command line with the same STD in and same STD out on multiple clients. So usually a client will instantiate it. By the way, if you have been coding Rust, you have been using JSONRPC without knowing it, because the Rust analyzer is based on JSONRPC as well. And JSONRPC is the simplest way, the most scalable way of doing RPC in a pervasive way and protocol and transport independent. Yeah, so you can use HTTP, you can use story handler, you can use SDIO and everything, and it works everywhere. So I'm super glad that the Anthropic guys and the Google guys, agent to agent, embrace JSONRPC rather to define another stuff. Yeah. So now the trick here is I have this MCP session. But if we go to the code of the transport, so again, in SDIO, I didn't need, so if I go to SDIO, so this one is good. I'm going to try to spin those guys. And then I'm going to close the other guys, okay? So that is SDIO. In SDIO, that is the config, and I wanted to have the transport. Okay, config the. So in the config here, I have the command line, the arg, and the current dir. So like this, people can pass that. And then in the transport of the SDIO, if I go there, I have the config. And then the inner, I keep all of the handles. So that is a type that have all of these handles. Because if I drop the child or the std in or std out, then the stream get dropped. So I want to keep a handle on that. Yeah, so this is why it's unused, because they don't all have to be used, but they have to be kept. Yeah, so that is a little bit away here. But bottom line is, in this case, SDIO, I don't need a session because there's no session business, because it's going to be only for me. When I do an HTTP transport, the server is obviously going to be for multiple clients. Yeah, that's the whole point of making it a server. And so in this case, there's a session that is happening. And so in fact, if you go and look there, I have commented out, probably. I commented out? No, MCP. Oh no, because we should see this guy. MCP response headers. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's debug. So I'm going to do actually, yeah. So on top of my examples over there, I have one. I don't have debug, because otherwise, so sometimes I switch it to debug. And actually, this is funny because it should be that. And so sometimes I can switch it to debug, but in this case, I don't really want to switch it to debug. And so what I'm going to do is this one that I'm using this technique is not something that I want to stick in the debug of my crate all the time. So I'm going to use my little hack here, is my debug print. And so I have this prefix, and I make sure that before the commits, I remove them. And then I'm going to take that, I put that there. Okay, so now I know that this is just for me to think about it. Press save, and then we're going to see that we have this one, MCP response headers, and we have this mcp-session-id, which is a version 4. I think this one is version 4 or version 3. Yeah, I think 4. I don't know. So the point here is that now, it's version 4. So now the trick is I don't store it. And there's a reason why I don't store it. And I've been thinking during the night here, and it's not that simple. So what I want is that this session ID, when I make the request, I store it over there. Because the next command that needs to be sent, I would like to have it there. So then when I send a comment, I want to make sure that I'm adding that. And I think you need to add that into the header. So this is what we're going to do today. Now, the reason why, and I'm using AI a lot, I have AI pack, so you can check AI pack, and then I have a procoder. I use AI a lot to code. Yeah, so in fact, if you go there, I have the concept of parametric AI, so I do the prompt over there, and then I tell my knowledge, best practices, knowledge, that is a prototype here, but base, and then I do my context globes and everything. I use AI a lot for coding. No emotion there. The trick here is I am in the design mode, and I could let AI designing, but I know I work a lot with AI, is going to go the common route. And there's no common route here. because MCP, well, it's a JSONRPC, and then the whole planet was on Rest for like the last 15 years. And then there's this session business, which is going to confuse with WT session. It's the probability of getting it off track is very high. And moreover, in my SDIO, I didn't have the session issue. So if I give that to AI and say, hey, AI, solve that, which again, I don't have AI fatigue. I don't care, who writes the code. I know that it's going to go a little bit haywire, okay? So this is why, in this case here, I like to say, I'm going to own the beast, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So in my SDIO, I didn't have this problem of keeping track of changing the thing. In fact, if you go to SDIO Transport, same pattern. I have the start, transport TRX here, which is my MC channel business. So I like channel patterns. And then I start the command line. So far, so good. I start and I take and I do whatever. And so that is the STD in, STD out. And then I have the loop here. And so I have three loops. I spawn three tasks, okay? One for the STD air, which is kind of STDIO kind of thing, but one for the output, STD output, so that will be what comes back from the MCP server, and then one from the STD in, which is what I'm going to send when I send a request. And it's pretty cool because it keeps track of the JSONRPC ID, and then it goes back and everything. So I have those guys that runs, and then at the end, I create the handles, okay, which is the thing that comes back from this, and the shell process that I didn't move, okay, so I can put it there. So I create those guys, and I create my inner. And so in my inner, I have everything. And so I'm happy because now this is immutable, just kind of a holder of all of this beast. And those guys are going to run longer than that. Yeah, so those starts, and then those. So this is why this guy cannot really have a mutable reference of its parents, because he doesn't know if he's going to outlive this guy. Now I can do the lifetime and stuff, but I don't want to go there. And so for that, it works well because every time I get a response in STD out from the MCP server, I just send it to the channel out TX. And then I have another in my client, I get the out TX, and then I parse it, and then I do the stuff. That works very well. The trick here is that in this current design, I can change my transport when I do a start, because it takes a ref mute of self, so I can change it, but I cannot change it inside those guys. Yeah, because I can't. Yeah, I think it's clear. So the trick is here. It didn't matter because, in fact, whatever comes is kind of stateless. So I send it back over there, goes back, and then everything goes back in the right type. It's good. Now the trick in the HTTP protocol is I just implemented the out. So this is the equivalent. STD out. Okay? So it's from, and in fact, I had it. Oh no. No, this is STD in, STD out. Yeah. And people are going to have for a ride to implement these guys. Good. So, yeah. With command line, okay, we have, when we are in SDIO Transport, we have this abstraction that the operating system is already giving us. This kind of 3 channels in a way. Yeah? So even without using the Rust channels, we have these 3 kind of, what they're calling it, std in, yeah, but you know, this buffer kind of things where you can pipe things or read things out. And they are separated. And so this is why in my code, I have a loop here, a Tokyo spawn, that do a buffer reader on stdr, and then I do a loop, and then I mash next, and then I wait, and then boom, boom, boom. So far, so good. Because the operating system kind of gave me this abstraction of saying, I'm going to give you this 3 pipeline in a way. Okay? So I do that for std out. That is what's come back from the MCP server and everything. So it's kind of clean, yeah, in many ways. In HTTP, and that is what they changed a little bit, which makes sense in their streamable server, is, well, you are going to do a post, which is the same thing as, yeah, it's a file descriptor. Yeah, I think it's a file. I'm not an OS guy, but yes, based on the file descriptor, I think, or whatever. But the cool thing is, from a Rust API standpoint, you have this 3 channels, and then you can loop through. They don't know each other. With a streamable HTTP business, what they've done, and I understand why they did it, is they say, okay, so this is what I do where I do the in. Yeah, so that's the architecture that I have. I have a channel, you know, I could click there, but so that is my communication stuff. And then I get a message. And then the message at this level is just a string. I don't need value or whatever. I trust that the other guy upstream done his work. I get the string, and then I had, for a given protocol, I take it, and then I'm going to send it to the MCP server. So it's beautiful, because if you go look at here, std in, this is the same guy that I have, yeah? So I do exactly the same code, I get the string, and then I send to std in. So this is a function, because there's a little dance here where you need to do, you know, flush and all this business. But basically, very simple. Yeah. Let's confuse this one. Now, the problem is, with HTTP, the way they've done it is, here I get the in request, which is, for example, initialize. And then when I do the initialize, I need to add this guy, which is what the header, actually, this is not used anymore. Yeah, this is the header of what I'm sending. So I'm sending application JSON, and then I need to accept these 2 guys. Okay, so that is, I'm accepting either application JSON or text event stream, which is a pseudo standard. And then what I do is I send the request. Then if it's not a request here, I am in a closure. So I'm going to trace the error, and I'm going to continue and pray for the best that the next one will work. And then here I do the println MCP. So that is what we have. And this is what we have here. But when I get the response here, I cannot do a self config. Is it config or self? I don't even have self. I don't want self. Do I have self here? Yeah, but I don't want it, because it's going to cry everywhere. I mean, that is not going to work. I don't even. Inner equal none. Okay, we're going to do that, for example. And that, boom, kaboom, yeah, because you cannot use self, because it's longer than everything, and you don't want to go lifetime. So that is where we don't want to go. So now we say, okay, we have these things, and we want to take the header session, and we want to make sure that the next time we send it, so here there's something that we need to do to say, if there's a session ID, you need to send the session ID. So this is what we need to do right now. And this is not what we're doing. So it works well because we do one guy. But if we were going to do, for example, so this one works well, yes? If we go to our example here, this one works well because we do the client, and the client sends one command. So if we click on client, we go here, and we're going to see create the transport over there, and it starts the transport, okay? And then I have this best practice where this one is mute. This one has to be mute when I start it, but then I don't need mute anymore. So my best practice, and I'm not saying is an awesome one, but I like to shadow shadow the variable, such as this one cannot be used, and this one is not mute anymore. So now I know that everybody below won't be able to mute. And it's not to be a cop, but it's like, okay, when I read the code, I say, okay, cool. I just mute it there, and then below I won't mute it again. So that is nice. So now I know it's immutable. And I do the com in here, so that's my type. And then I run, so this is where I have the loop. Yeah, so I loop over the out. So this is another Tokyo span. And then I loop into this guy that I have the TX over there. And that is where I do the whole mapping. And it's pretty cool because I have an RPC on an event-based. This means that the response doesn't even have to come in the right order, such as the one calling the request will always get it, the corresponding one to his. So it could be out of order. So that works very nicely. The consequence of that is that it does not the consequence of that is that when I start my loop here, I don't know if it's initialized or not. And so what I want here is to say, well, when it's initialized, I want to, or when there's a header or whatever, I want to set the header. So this is a little bit kind of the tricky part here to say, how can I get the header? What is the right pattern to get the header and put it back there? Cannot put it there, and so on. So it's a little bit, I'm a little bit on the picker right now. So I'm going to design it here live. So I have the connect, so this works well because it sends one command. But now, if we were going to do the list tools, we should be able to do list tools and have the same things that we have in our C1 simple. If I do that, it will compile nicely. But now it should be kaboom. And if it's not, it's weird. Okay, so I'm going to do another. So like whatever when so I'm going to do that to see what's going on. So I have this one here. And why? Okay, interesting. So what that means, which is fair, so they were a kaboom, but we don't even have, and I should have debug. So something is not even, okay. So here we send another request. So there's two requests that is sent. The first one, which is good, is this one. And then this one, which is a list tool params, which should be sent. I was expecting, so one of the good news is it's normal, it doesn't work because we don't keep the session. So there's one guy that complains somewhere. The thing here, which is a little bit broken, I don't know why, is we do not see the response. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment these two guys. We don't see the error, I mean, okay? We see the two headers. So in a way, it is answering something. So if I go to the HTTP protocol, I'm going to do, so that should be like that. Yeah, so I always put this notation such as I can remove them when I don't want them. I don't know why I didn't have that before. And now there's something weird. Yep, I know what it is. It's funny. Okay, so here's the reason. So again, we don't pass the MCP session. So the guy should complain. The server say, hey, I don't understand. Yeah, you can call me with initialize and then give me the, and then I will give you the MCP session. But if you call me with list tools, I'm not going to be nice. You need to give me back my MCP session, which is this guy, mcp-session-id. And here we see that the second, I can put this one so we can see it. And I will have coded like this. Yes, I'm really, those videos, I don't know if they work or not, because sometimes people unsubscribe somehow, but they are more like unscripted is a way I will work. I spend a little bit more explaining, but it's a way I will work. I will do exactly that. And then I was like, oh, okay, so what's happening here? In fact, what's happening, if we look, is we have content type text event stream. So text event stream means that we're using an API, a pretty cool, it's event source or something. It's something, this crate, which is awesome. This one, event source stream, which is awesome. So that allows us to parse this kind of event stream business. Yeah? So they have data, ID, or whatever, and then a new anti-line to separate the payloads. And so this guy does this parsing, so everybody's happy. And then I can do next. Now, the thing that I didn't do here is I'm not checking the content type, which is bad. I'm not checking, oh, you are having a content type. And in fact, here I don't have any content type. So I'm sure that if, for example, if I have headers, so if we're going to do that, do they have a contain over there? Contains key. We're going to do a content type. We're going to assume that you put everything lowercase. And we're going to say is none. No, contains, silly, yeah. And then we're going to print it. One piece, so that's my Rust 10x extension. And then we're going to print to say no content type. Press save. And now we should have no content type, which is not where I was expecting it to have. Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sorry for the one. It should be frustrating when you're live and you see this error, and there's a delay here on things. So we have that, and now we're going to have the no content type, because there's no content type. So in fact, if we have no content type, and I could do something like that, where I'm going to say thing, and I'm going to do res txt, res text. I think they have a wait. Do they have res text? They do. Wait. So I do that, txt. I think they have that, command U to have the result, and I'm going to say unwrap. I don't use unwrap. I don't use that ever. Yeah, and if I do, you can remind me. But I do unwrap, and then I'm going to say unwrap. So I don't do unwrap, but I do unwrap or. Yeah, I can use else to not. I think I don't care about this. I don't know if they are going to send the error here. Unwrap no content. That should compile, and now I do the text, okay? So I don't need to handle the error here, I just want to see it quickly. And interesting enough is that, oh, that consume it. That's fair enough. Oh, okay, that's fine. So that makes sense. Yeah, if we go and click text, it consumes it. It has to consume it because it has to read the body. Okay, so we go back there, and then we're going to say continue here. And that should compile now. Okay, because now we're saying, hey, you you go back. There's nothing we can do. And now we do JSONRPC, error and stuff, bad request, server is not initialized. Make total sense. Yeah. The only thing that we don't have here, which is funny, it's interesting that they don't have any content type. I think that is a bug of their server, because they should have a component type, at least text application JSON. Yeah. So that is weird. So this is the thing here where we do not have this famous thing there. So I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to do an ugly one first to check that it works with the Rust way. And then after I will do a nicer one. That is going to be my goal. So I'm going to have, so I'm not going to use that for now because I don't want to play with the self business for now. What I'm going to do is to say, well, I'm going to have another guy, which is let session ID. Okay. And that will be an arc. That will be a mutex. And we are probably going to use, well, we're going to let him text. And then we are going to do a mutex of string. Okay. Could be a mute, I don't think. Yeah. And that should be something like that. And it shouldn't be that. It should be a mutex of option of string. We're going to do like that. And we're going to do arc default. So I think that should do everything. And now we're going to have this mutex, import one, and we're going to import futures. I did on this one. We're going to import the mutex. It's a long story. If you have an await in between, it's better to talk you otherwise and stuff. So this one continued to complain. There's a bug here that I don't like in my thing is, well, there's a couple of things here that I need to add. One is that should have at least trace an error, and that it didn't. And the reason why it didn't is because, well, I need to handle that. So now I know that when there's no content type, I know that I need to handle it as if it were JSON, apparently. Which I don't like that. I really don't like that. I don't know why. It might be a good reason, yeah, but anyway. So now I'm going to do that. And this is what I'm going to do. And then I should be able to do something like, I'm just going, so we are sending the request. We are getting all of the headers. So what I'm going to do, and it's super ugly right now, but I don't care about ugly. What I want is to make it work, and then we'll see it later. Oh, we have Xavier. Hey, how are you doing? So we have someone in the, you can join the MS team, guys, if you want, and then you can ask questions. So now we have the MCP response, we have the headers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do if let sum. We're going to do the session ID. What we're going to do? Yeah, session ID. And then we are going to say res header. So I'm not super familiar with the thing, but I will assume that there's a get. Then I'm going to take this guy. Okay. And that should return a header value. Okay, whatever. Oh yeah, because they have a header can have multiple values, I think. So now they have a whatever. So now let session ID equal session ID, and I do command control space to str. Okay. So that will have two guys. So I don't want to have those two guys over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a map. Okay. That will be my value. And I'm going to do this guy. Okay. To str, which is a result. I don't care about the error right now. So I'm going to do OK. Okay. So now that will return an option of an option. Okay. So if I really want, I can do something like this. Let dd. I do dd because it's easy to type. And that should return an option of an option. So sometime, I mean, here I know, well, I don't. V, sorry. So now this is an option of an option. Yeah, so far so good. So sometime I knew what it was going to be, but sometime I do my dd there. And so like this, I see where it's going. And then let me make sure that I put the chat a little bit above here, such as doesn't. And then, so what we're going to do now is we are going to say we have the headers. That's sorry. That's cool. So we don't need that. And so in fact, we are going to and then. That is often the thing I do. You could do flatten, but the and then is better. So now we have the option of str, and we don't need if let some session ID, okay, equal that guy, and then we're going to do something. Now, super ugly, not proud, doesn't matter. We don't have to be proud. So I think it's there. So hopefully, so I think is we do a lock like that. Let, I'm going to say v like value, doesn't matter. Why doesn't like it? Fair enough, I think is, oh, no. What am I doing? I'm going to call it holder, okay? So we do that, and that is a future, which makes sense. We have the await. So this one shouldn't be able to fail, which is cool. And then this is super ugly, guys. Yeah. So I'm not proud. I'm definitely not proud. And moreover, it's going to be less proud because here we are going to get the holder, get the value and everything. So there's something, but at least it will work. And then we'll know that we need to solve that. And there might not be other solutions. The problem here is nothing about the code design right now is that this loop doesn't know what it runs. Just get the commands, send the commands, and then listen, and then do the right thing. And so the trick is, I don't want the initialize to have a special path. This is, it's my little bit the thing, because then if it has a special path, it breaks so many of the design. So that is a problem. So now we have let lock, the lock shouldn't complain. And then we have a V. And I think it's something like that. Yeah, V, and we're going to do some session ID. Okay, here I'm being a little bit silly here. I don't think this is the way. There's a way to do it here. I'm being silly. So, think I can I do a let v call, and then I do a reference of v. If someone can help here, it's I'm doing something silly here. I know that. Okay, I'm going to do that. Can I do that? There's something here silly. So I'm going to go there, and yes, I have no shame here. I'm going to go ChatGPT. I have temporary in Rust. Up, back. I'm lazy. There's something silly stuff. V is Tokyo mutex guard of option of string. How can I set sum my string to string? This is a silly stuff. I mean, I'm going to be ashamed, but that's fine. Yeah, well, this is what I had. Another thing I had. Okay. No, I don't. Can you bow? Cannot bow as mutable. Oh my God. Oh, epic fail. Sorry, guys. No, I'm not a big fan of cursor, and because I'm using AIPack and my Procoder when I do like deep development. So on this one, it might have help. This, in fact, he was right. So when I have these things, otherwise, I have what I call the AIPack Procoder, and when I code I have code that has 25,000 or whatever. And I have the full control of my knowledge globes, my context globes, my structure globes. I can even have concurrency and everything. And this is what I use all the time. Sometime on my live stream, I show how I use. If you go to AIPack, you can see AIPack. You go there, and I have some demo here of how to use production coding and stuff. And then you can go to the Discord as well and stuff. So that is what I use, because this way I have a good control. In VS Code, I like the autocomplete. The chat of VS Code goes everywhere, so I don't like it. In these kind of things, I don't want to chat, because if I were going to chat, my experience with VS Code is that it goes crazy. I could have done, but here it wouldn't have solved that, because I do the autocomplete. I will do command stuff. I would have done that, and then I was not smart enough to say mute. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. So now what we're doing is every time we get the are not visibles. Oh, sorry. The comments are not visible. Oh yeah. Yes. We need. Oh, thank you. Savior. Yeah, the comments are not visible because I don't know. You see, I could put it here, but I need to have something smart. So that will be the next step here to make the command visible there, which I would have seen there. So now I have it visible at least on my side. Thank you, Xavier. So I like your handle. So anyway, and yes, the problem is I need to still have to manage my windows and stuff. So now we have this. And so this means that every time we get the request now, we are getting, we are setting up the session. I don't like it, but I do it for now. Now, what we want is, so now we have that done. What we want is we're going to keep this guy, because I think this guy is going to be okay, but we still need to handle when the thing is not content type, or content type application JSON. Because if you send an application JSON, that should break, because it will expect JSON, and the server-side event is not JSON. So now what we're going to do is the same business over there. So we're going to have a thing there, and don't move the header, application header. So this one is a content type. And then I'm going to have, that is that. I'm not sure if I can put, I'm going to assume I can put a header after I put the body. It's not clear, but we'll assume that we can do that. And we are going to do a log here. In this case, we do not need the mute. And then we're going to say, if let sum, and we're going to let ChatGPT stuff as ref, okay. Debug, no session ID, okay. We're going to comment this guy, we don't need that. We don't want to do that. I'm going to use my stuff there, using mcp-session-id, and then string here, beautiful, and header, beautiful, except that this probably is a consuming pattern. Yeah, so I command click to see the stuff. This is consuming pattern. So I go back there and I say, well, that won't work because it won't be the same guy. Does it compile? No, it doesn't compile. Thank you, Rust. And that is because I need to do let rec. Might be a better way of doing it, but it's good enough. Then rec. Okay. And then I do like that. That should be fine. Good. And then, boom, boom. So we're going to do println. Using, so no MCP session found, okay. I have the request. Okay. And why it doesn't do that? Okay, so the transport here is weird because, so we're setting up, we're getting the thing, we're setting the request, we're sending the request, and then we have the MCP response header, which is this one. Oh, which is that component type. But then why doesn't get the other ones? So we're going to activate that back. No MCP session ID, so that's normal. MCP response handler, headers, Okay, that is weird. So I'm going to say why. I'm going to comment these guys, because now it doesn't even go here. That's what we had before. So something is happening over there. So I'm thinking about myself, is it a deadlock or not? And it might be a deadlock. V, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to say drop. Yep, that was it. Okay. So, yeah, Savior, you're on the top here. That's cool. Savior had the thing. Thank you. I need to check my stuff more. So because of you, I'm going to make sure that I put the MS Team chat there. So I need to find a good way to do that. This is awesome, Savior. So now I'm dropping this guy because here I was holding it, and then below I was asking it again. So it was like, it get kind of deadlock. So, and this is the thing, yeah. So the way I debug it, and it's always, that used to work. And so this is why I commented this guy. I said, well, it's probably not this. And then when it didn't work, I said, well, what did I change from before? And then when you play with lock and everything, this is always a risk. Yeah. So I'm going to rename this guy session holder guard. And it's not, but at least I have the thing. And then session holder, and then this one I don't really need to. Well, I'm going to rename this one just for symmetry. Session holder guard. Okay, and then this one get dropped at the end. So I'm happy on this one. It's just that this one is stuff. And typically I will have what I will have done it. Yeah, it's funny because when I did that, I almost put it in the block, because then it will have getting dropped, but then it has to return the value. So another way of doing that would have been to put all of this inside that and remove that and do a let rec over there. It would have worked as well. But anyway, that's fine. And so, actually, this is an interesting best practice. So now we have this, we have the thing, and that works pretty nicely. And so we can comment this one. We're going to comment that guy. We have the MCP response here, headers. Okay, and then I'm going to hide this one. And then here I'm going to set it again. We got the lock anyway, so we could say, hey, if this one, don't set it up or compare to make sure. This stuff we could do there. But, we're going to keep it this way. And then if there's no content, we're going to do that for now, which is good, and then stuff. And so now, if we go back there, we're going to uncomment this one. Oh, awesome. Ugly, but awesome. And so that works. And that is a beauty. Yeah, we didn't change the types and the way that string was getting parsed into into transport and everything. The cool thing is when you do your transport nice and your architecture here, the transport is 100 line of codes, even less. I mean, it's this one for HTTP, and then we have most of it. There's a lot of things here which I'm going to take a break right now, I'm going to lunch. I might continue this afternoon, but there's some cleanings that need to happen. And I think one of my strategy right now is going to go with this way for now and probably remove that, because I don't need to have it there. So I can remove that. It's not a thing that I need to have there. So, so I'm going to remove it there. And in fact, I'm going to say, well, I don't even need a client at this point. Yeah. And the reason is because, oh, does it complain somewhere? Yeah, complain here, but. So I don't need an inner, I just need the config. And then whatever state I need is part of my start business. I don't need other things to have it at this point. Now, if somehow I want to provide an API to be able to provide these kind of things, I will provide it. But until then, this session holder, it's only for that loop. So I don't need it anywhere. And that is a design which was nice, which I took it early, and now I'm very happy about it. It's this transport T-Rex, which is the send and the receive. And it has this guy, which I named. So I didn't do a tuple because otherwise tuple is not named. So here I wanted to name them. And so that is an in, the things that get requested as a client. And that is an out, which is what is being sent by the server. So when the server responds me, anyway he responds, doesn't really matter, I'm going to send the out. And the out here is the string of the JSON of the JSONRPC. So if we go down over there, this is where we use that crate. Okay, this crate event source stream, which is very cool. And it does a parsing for us. And so then we have an event, which is that, which is the SSE event. And that will have our event, which is a name, data, the ID, and the retry. That's apparently part of the spec. The only thing that we care is about that. Now, when you read the spec, it seems that those should be optional. Here they are not optional, so I don't know if I'm going to have problem down the route, but we'll see that later. And I think this is pretty cool. So I did the debug, and then that is where I sent it. So this is exactly what I have in the SDIO transport. And so the nice thing is now, this transport is smart about transport, is dumb about everything else. That is always the things with architecture. Yeah, you want to be smart at your parts of your system needs to be smart at one thing and dumb at everything else. So in fact, for it, is the data is a string. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. Or it could be bytes, but here I put the string business. So I think this is pretty cool. It's actually very cool. So what I will do to clean it up, I'm going to do the commit here like the way I like. I will remove that and we'll do stuff. And I'm going to remove this guy. It is. So I'm going to do a thing like that. To do, make sure to do a warn if not initialize event. String lose match. Okay, because here I just have a string, so I'm not going to reparse the JSON. Yeah, so this one I just get a string, and I'm happy with that for now. So I don't want to reparse the JSON. One day I might pass value, I don't know. But what I need to do here is to say, hey, if it's not initialized, so if it's initialized, I can do a little match. It's fine. If it's not, I do a warning. And it's not going to be bulletproof, but it's going to be much better, and at least we'll know. And now we do the session if there. So that one is good. The one I'm not happy is this one. But this one I could do. I could trigger this one, and I might do that only. Why should we do it now? I might trigger this one only if I have result equal initialized result or something like that. So I might do that, this block, only if the response being slow here, I will get, one thing I might do is I might get the header over there, the session from the header, and then I think that will work. I need to see with the ownership, but I will do it here, meaning that only if the data contains initialized result. Again, that might be a little bit loose here because I don't want to parse it at this level. Then I will update the session. So this is a thing here. I'm going to comment that. To do, probably do it only on initial result. Okay. And then this is almost a fix me, which is need to. This is almost a fix me. So fix me is higher. Needs to handle cases when no content type or content type is not or is application JSON. Because right now we only handle this guy. And so if it's a solo response, we can assume that is probably the body of the JSONRPC response. When there is no component or content type is that. Okay, so that was an interesting session. Not as many as people as yesterday, but still pretty cool. I have this debug print here, which I don't really like. Yeah, this guy stuff. So we're going to remove that. And then, cool. This is pretty cool. This is normal, get dropped, because there's no error channels in a way in HTTP. So I might remove that as a one, but this is okay. And in fact, I might have that as an info perhaps, but this one is okay. Because in this protocol, there is no error channels. And that's pretty cool. So that means that if we do that, then everything works, yeah? I mean, we'll do the test, but we can call tools and everything, because the way it's been wired here is everything is independent of the transport and everything. So now we can call tools, we can call prompt and everything, and we had all of the first basic support. So it's pretty cool. So now I'm going to com staff and just status. I'm going to search for that guy to make sure that I remove that. Okay. So that is what I like to do. That is fine. So we say no content. That is a good one. No content type for this guy. And in fact, I could do the headers there. I will do the headers. new content type, and I say, I will do something like that. I say headers. We removed MCP-session-id as option. Yes, I think we need to set only once one is known. Yes, you're right. So again, I'm sorry, I need to fix that. Good question here is, can I do a plus? Oh yeah, I can do plus. That's cool. The question here is MCP-session-id is option. I think we need to set only once when it's none. Yeah, there's an optimization that needs to happen there. I agree. Right now, we're a little bit, to do only on initialization result. And then probably another to do for all other requests, trace error if session holder is none. And so this is what we want. And this kind of trace or debug point or whatever you want, it's very important because sometimes it can save you a lot of time here. So this one, for example, is a good one to have. So I'm going to do headers. I'm going to do a res headers, and then body, and then that will be the body over there. And then I will do something like that, txt. Okay, so this way, interesting. Yeah. Can I do this? Yeah, okay, that's good enough. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So now we'll know when things doesn't have a header and doesn't contain a header. We should have the same thing where it contains a header. To do trace when the content type header is application JSON. Well, I have it up there. That's fine. So that is what we need to handle, but this is the temporary stuff. And I make sure that I didn't break this guy, CWE, client, C01, simple. Okay, C02, call tool. Okay, everything is working fine. Git log, that was the thing. So usually I don't commit the tilde. In this one, because it's an early crate and because I do them live, this way people can play with it if they want. So git c commit, it's an alias for me. And what was so usually I misspell all the time. I will have put the HTTP transport first, but yesterday I said, so I'll do HTTP transport. Usually I like to do that. I do the topic and then continue implementation. Captured. Okay. It's not super happy with the commit, but that's better than nothing. Git log and git push oranges. Boom. So that will get over there. And yeah, for the ones that are here, you are going to see that. I don't know if I'm going to do one this afternoon or not. I think this is pretty good. I do need to have this cleanup. So I'm not sure if I should do the cleanup or not. That is a thing. I need to think about it. If we need to do the cleanup of of that. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I think with that, thank you for joining. And until next one, happy coding.